Is HOA Today. HOA Today is brought to you by, oh my goodness. Sorry. HOA Today is brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a property technology business. Zayuk provides a platform for you as a property to collect funds, your assessments, to distribute those funds and manage the contracts across distributing those funds to various vendors to maintain your assets, whether those be balconies or roofs or just the general landscaping, exterior painting, plumbing. There are many things that come with owning properties, many complexities. And so one of the best things about owning in an HOA is that you don't necessarily have to deal with those complexities directly. You can allow the association, depending on what type of property you live in, if it's a, condominium, townhome versus, say, single family homes where you're going to have to do a lot more of the maintenance on the building. But HOAs are really great. They're much more affordable than single family homes, and the reality is there are going to be more and more and more coming. So Zayuk Safe is a great system. We provide governance oversight. We provide contract management with an e-signature portal. We provide vendor management and vendor work order commenting. We provide a collection system, and we've got some other cool features coming up. So today on HOA Today, I'm going to speak about a few different headlines. So a couple days ago, we spoke about a Florida woman who faced jail time for her lawn. And it appears that, we also spoke about it yesterday. She's now facing foreclosure, not alone. So she was jailed for 7 days for minor infractions like dry grass, dented garage door, dirty mailbox. Now facing foreclosure from her HOA. Others in the residence, Creekview is the name, are being targeted, quote unquote, not by unpaid mortgages, but by mounting HOA legal fees. At the heart of the dispute here, quote, at the heart of the dispute is how Creekview's HOA board has enforced its 67 pages of rules and regulations covering everything from trash bins to lawn care. That's moneywise.com's article on this. So this is something homeowners, let me continue. Quote, homeowners say the HOA has outsourced enforcement to a property manager and a law firm that are relentless in cracking down on even the smallest violations, unquote. That's from MoneyWise. So we just actually had this problem addressed in California where $100 was set as the maximum for fines. And, of course, I don't know the exact situation here, but that can easily be taken advantage of, but you can see that sometimes unchecked power, whether that be from a manager or from a board, can also have huge issues. And here we can see that argument is being made. Quote, it seems that owed $13,000 and owes $3,300. Wow. That's a lot. $9,400 of that being attorney fees. Surprising power. I mean, if when you purchase into a association, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. You need to want to purchase into a good one. So that situation is unfolding, has been unfolding for the last couple of weeks. And we'll continue on here from Central Nebraska Today. Quote, Eastbrook HOA opposes rezone to allow for duplex in North Kearney neighborhood. Eastbrook Homeowners Association spoke in opposition. Stuart Hoffman, representing Hoffman Bills, has submitted an application to rezone a property located at 5715 Avenue R from District R1 to R1D, low density to a higher density. Rent the duplex and possibly sell it in the future. It's been zoned to only allow single-family homes for nearly 20 years. Convents of an HOA are not enforced by the city of Kearney. So that's important. Local civil code. Let me just Google this real quick. See, yes. Generally, local laws take precedence over HOA rules. Here's a breakdown of hierarchy: federal law, state law, local law, ordinance, HOA rules, and regulations. So federal law takes the highest precedent, and then you go from there to HOA law. I'm sorry, federal, state, local, and then HOA. And then so here the city of Kearney has said that they are not that the convents of HOA, they're not enforced. Separate private agreements. Not entitled by right for it to be approved. No formal discussion, but communicated on it through Facebook. Oh, wow. So 265 members of the HOA, and the subject property is the last undeveloped lot. It would take 2/3 vote to change their covenants. Unlikely to pass. Yeah, that's very high. I mean, zoning is a very, very sensitive topic in the United States, and it's a hot topic. Sprawl. You know, we have a lot of sprawl in this country, and you can look at other countries like Europe, or even you go to the Northeast with Chicago and DC and New York, and they have some great public transport. And a big reason for sprawl is the desire for people to own cars and use multiple cars in a household. But zoning is a sensitive topic. And so before we move on to our next story, I want to talk about Zayuk. Zayuk Safe is a tool where HOAs can distribute their information through, they get a public facing website. They have a governance system, so they input their rules. They vote on those rules. They voting system as well. And we just added an anonymous feature. So not just anonymous, but privacy settings on our votes. So if you want to have a vote where The voter is not anonymous. You can do so, but we also have anonymous voting and highly configurable to the needs of your property and the needs between the owners. So that's very exciting. Zayuk is a very, very good tool for homeowner associations. And so let's move on. DelawareOnline.com, how home buyers can research HOA deed restrictions and bylaws before they buy. So just coming back to Zayuk, we take in your rules, we take policies, bylaws, CCRs, covenants. Let me just. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions, bylaws, rules and regulation, policies, and we input them into our app in a data-driven way. And we reference those. One, we give you a public-facing site for you to automatically have your rules displayed, along with other features as well, some of the details of your association. And rules is a very important part of this. So this is a very important thing, and you don't even want people to join the association if they don't want to abide by the rules. You only want people to join your association if they're willing to abide by the rules, and they should know the rules before they do so. So having those distributed and available is very important. The first sentence, quote, buying a home can be exciting, but if that home is part of a community governed by a homeowners association, you could be signing up for more than just a mortgage, unquote. They have a major effect on daily life. Can you have a pet? How big is the pet? Can you own this type of car? Can you not own this type of car? Or at least can you park it there? Can you even put a flag out? Can you get a different type of air conditioner? Can you get a washing machine? It's a lot, and knowing those rules is very important. So it looks as though Newcastle County has created a community association portal, a valuable tool for free online resource, provides public access to governing documents. That's very useful. Launched in October 2023. Provide both current homeowners and prospective buyers with easy access to information. And that's what Zayuk does, is providing easy access to information, distributing information effectively across stakeholders, and also for the AI. So let's continue, and I'll speak about that later. So from Yahoo Life, homeowner desperate for solutions to protect beloved property feature from HOA. Quote, want to avoid any problems. Beautiful native plant garden from scrutiny by his homeowners association. Lush full garden with colorful blooms, coneflower, allium, butterfly weed, and more. Quote from Yahoo Life, HOAs are notorious for impeding native gardens, usually claiming they're not aesthetically pleasing, even though native plant gardens can be breathtakingly beautiful, unquote. The original poster said, quote, "Our HOA is pretty active / confrontational on the most minor stuff. I know of other neighbors who have been requested to clean up their landscaping," unquote. Exactly. Get involved. I mean, homeownership isn't just, a lot of, the more I get into real estate and HOA and also investing and finance, the more you realize, your first home is not that great of an investment, and it really shouldn't be considered an investment. It's a home. It's a place where you live, and there's maintenance on that, and it's not very obvious. So making sure that either you're willing to put in that maintenance or you have an association that puts in that maintenance, but that association is run appropriately because it's a business. Homeowners associations are businesses. You're joining a business. It's a business of community. It's a business of residents, but it's a business nonetheless. And it has a balance sheet. Businesses, the language of business is accounting. And, positive cash flow is not just positive cash flow, but also you want your asset to be valuing appropriately. Sometimes that's out of control of your home and your HOA. Very often it is, but relative to your neighboring communities, it's not. If your association is of lower value, there's lower assessment totals being committed. Maybe the management or the board isn't working as diligently and communicating as effectively as they possibly could. It becomes a huge issue. So, and that's your property, and most people don't want to think about it for a decent reason. They work hard, but it's your property. If you want to be invested in it, you should trust the people that are managing it, and you should understand at least what's going on. I mean, because it's fun, it's fun to understand business. It's fun to work with other people sometimes. So here, this is from South Fulton County. And I think we spoke about this yesterday. A manager had been arrested for, I believe it was embezzlement, deception and false statements, fraudulent documents, felony fraud. Signed the names of owners of a Camelot condo and a quitclaim deed. So, quote from South Fulton County, from WSB TV Atlanta. Owners at troubled South Fulton condo community not surprised by HOA president's arrest. Brought a lot of confusion. It's a very difficult job. Trying to put this narrative that this is just the city trying to come after our property while you've allowed this to happen, unquote. Yeah. Another Camelot HOA president and treasurer was arrested for theft by taking 2 years ago. So this is a very poorly run business. You wouldn't want to invest in that business. Even if it's in a good spot, even if like it looks great, it's near your work. Those are the types of things that are very important to understand, and it doesn't take too much. Get some financial records, talk to some neighbors. You could probably walk around that place for 15 minutes and talk to at least one to two different neighbors, and talk to hopefully an owner or even a person who's rents, and they can give you some advice, or they can at least direct you on what the property is like. So again, this episode of HOA Today is brought to you by Zayuk Smart Property System. Zayuk is a place where you can place your governance rules. You have a budgeting system with the balance sheet, so you can determine your income and expenses, including the assessments. Your board will be able to do collections in the app. They can manage their subscriptions. They can manage the balances across various members of the association, work orders, tickets, inspections. It can all be done in the app. And it's very powerful. And where we're going with it is super powerful. So it is right now available on mobile and web. Right now, we've got voting, anonymous or non-anonymous, governance, distribution, asset ledger that includes the reserve system, living reserves. We provide a drone reserves inspection. So we bring out some reality capture technology, including a drone, fly it over your association, document the balcony, document the roofs, document the gutters, document the pavement, document anything that's out in the open, and for us to take a picture of and provide that model to you. So you have a survey grade level model available to visualize the property that you're working with. So we'll move on now. This is Connecting the Valley, NBC Palm Springs. Quote, Esquina homeowner alleges harassment by HOA president, considers legal action, unquote. Continuous harassment. President Jordan Smith moved into the neighborhood on April 1st. Jumped in front of his moving car to introduce himself. You better be, quote, and issuing a stark warning, quote, you better behave, unquote. Received 4 noise complaints. HOA president has sent him repeated emails. Smith has escalated his concerns. The HOA president declined to comment when contacted. Smith says he hopes his story will raise awareness about the power imbalance. Well, that's quite the article. But it's true. It's true. It's small power. Let me just I'm gonna do some Gemini. Small power HOA president. There's this sort of complex, and it's the idea that the president does have a lot of power, and it's very important that you try and vote in people that you trust and think can actually help the situation, which is difficult because this is a thankless thing. Like being an HOA board member is thankless, other than the fact that it's your property. So it's not too thankless in the sense that you're helping your own property hopefully appreciate appropriately and allocate reserves appropriately. But it can be very easy for someone who has a lot of control over the finances around their neighborhood, his or her, their neighborhood, could it's very easy to build, I don't want to say a superiority complex, but something of the nature. You do have power. The president does have power. They can do things that frankly other people cannot, and they have control. So it's important to apply humility, be calm, keep things under control. Very difficult. It's personal. It's personal. Where you live is a personal thing. So it's not an easy system. Homeowners associations, it's really not an easy system. And when I say an easy system, I mean there's a lot of room. First of all, it's a decentralized system, which increases the complexity a lot. And when I say decentralized, we can even mean the infrastructure within the buildings. So single family home associations, sure, there is shared assets, but it's not the home, the building. Once you share the walls, the complexity increases significantly. You have plumbing, you have electricity, you have gas, possibly, you have shared roofing. If it's a multi-story with separate owners, then what affects the top could affect the bottom. So leaking, it increases the complexity. Something as simple as painting. If the paint on the building degrades, if it's a single family home, that's your building. It's obvious. You're the one that's paying for that. But if it's a condo, if it's a townhome, the payment of the fix, the service request, the work order, there needs to be collections across everybody. And then there needs to be vendor work done. So then you collect, you handle the work order, you send the invoice. It's not simple. It's not a simple system. But property owners, if you want to be a property owner, it's a very important system to understand. So here, WVLT 8, Knoxville, Tennessee. Quote, complaints filed against Tellico Village Property Owners Association regarding utilities, unquote. Complaints are bringing legal action. Owners Association is in charge of utilities such as water and sewage. Neighbors paid $80 a month as fees. There were plans to do that. Then all of a sudden, $80 came off 10 months or so later. And so there's a little bit of confusion. Neighbors are now filing complaints with Tennessee Public Utilities Commission. Petition addressed in the petition is the POA, that's the Owners Association, is operating a public utility without a certificate of public convenience. Attorney General office said, quote, Tellico Village is considered an HOA not required to have a CCN, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. But the complaint filed said it's not an HOA because it has both residential and commercial properties. From here, TPUC will hold a meeting. So it might not be an HOA, but it's still a POA. So I don't believe, I'm not a lawyer, and don't take legal advice from me, but I don't believe that changes that shouldn't hold up. Just because they're commercial shouldn't change the details. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my legal advice. And here's another article by newsherald.net. addressed a telegram, came in boxes across the village just minutes before the group's town hall meeting on July 10th, 2025. Property owner inquiring about the organization's potential subjugation to regulations, unquote. Okay, here it is. So the Attorney General asked, why would this not be, why it wouldn't fall under TPUC's regulation? And their response, quote, it appeared that the immediate opinion of the board was that it didn't have to assimilate into this state-funded group as private unincorporated community, unquote. And that was acknowledged to be correct. The POA has met with consumer advocate to prove the legitimacy. According to OR, quote, the water and sewer system is completely off limits to county residents unless they are a paying member of the POA. Yes, so because it's limited to the associations, that's a very confusing case. That's a very confusing case. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me today, HOA Today. This episode was brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a smart property system. We have our software app as well as a property inspection system. So I'm a licensed engineer. We have licensed engineers viewing the model. It is at survey grade level. It is, it helps to visualize your property and actually document the hygiene. So you want to know how your roof's doing. You want to know how your balconies are doing so that you don't have to pay an exorbitant amount in the future and you can plan appropriately for that. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Happy